Welcome. Today I'd like to share with you my thoughts and understanding of a lesser-known biblical story that's fascinated me for some years now. Along the way, I'll be showing you the process of an oil painting I've recently completed that's based on this tale. So please, sit back and relax, open your mind, and enjoy. According to the Book of Enoch, the Watchers were a group of heavenly beings who were assigned to Earth in the early days of humanity to watch over us, but not to interfere unless given express commands from God Himself. If you grew up as Catholic or Christian, the Book of Enoch might seem familiar but also not. The Book of Enoch is an ancient Jewish text, but it is not a canonical text, meaning that if you go find your Bible and you look, you won't find it in there. For some, or perhaps many reasons, when the powers that be were assembling what we know of now as the Bible, the Book of Enoch was rejected as part of the canon. The character of Enoch is still mentioned in the Bible briefly as an ancestor of Noah in Genesis. I'll talk some more about this later, because there's a few notes I'd like to make regarding the validity of the Book of Enoch from my own perspective and opinions. But for now, I want to focus on the Watchers and the lore surrounding their story in the text. The Watchers were a group of heavenly, or sometimes even referred to as celestial, beings stationed on Earth to watch over humanity. Why exactly they were meant to watch over us is unclear, but it seems that humans of the time were aware of their presence to some extent. But at some point, the Watchers became enamored with the beauty of the daughters of men, and chose to disregard their divine duties. The Watchers made a pact among themselves to take on physical form and cohabitate with humans. The Watchers then seduced and married human women. As a result, hybrid offspring were produced. Furthermore, the Watchers are said to have imparted forbidden knowledge and secrets onto humankind. They taught various arts, sciences, and mystical practices, including the secrets of heaven and heavenly technologies. This knowledge was considered highly advanced and beyond what was permissible for humans to possess, and is said to have initiated a period of great corruption and upheaval within the cultures of men. This transgression against divine boundaries ultimately led to their downfall and punishment, as it did to the humans who harbored them. The Watchers are not described to be any known race of angels, such as the seraphim or the cherubim or any of those. They're referred to as the sons of God and the sons of heaven at different points. Their appearance is never described in the Book of Enoch, but in some other ancient traditions, they are depicted as a separate class of angels called the Grigori. It seems that as far as rank goes, the Watchers would have been a lower tier of angel, not of the same class as the archangels like Michael or Gabriel. It is written that there were exactly 200 of these Grigori stationed above Earth, and that they were led by an angel named Semyaza. The Book of Jubilees, another non-canonical text, gives us a bit more detail on the story of the Watchers. The Book of Jubilees states that the Watchers originated from a place called the Heights, or the Heaven of Heavens. They are depicted as teachers of enchantments, spells, and the cutting of roots to create magic. They are also said to have revealed knowledge of cosmetics, astronomy, signs, and astrology. It is later that a specific Watcher named Azazel teaches humans the art of metalworking, weaponry, and war. And this is where the real trouble began. The narrative suggests that humanity strayed from the righteous path due to the influence of the Watchers and their forbidden knowledge. As a result, Yahweh decided to intervene and pass judgment on both the Watchers and humanity through a global flood. This is the flood we know from the story of Noah's Ark in Genesis. Yahweh sought to destroy mankind, for he saw that the evil of man was great on earth, and every imagination of thought of his heart was only evil all the day long, so says Genesis. And then God charges the human Enoch with the task of delivering the message to the Watchers regarding their fate. The Book of Jubilees describes the punishment of the Watchers following their crimes. The text states that the sons of the Watchers, both Nephilim's sons and their heavenly sons, would be slain in front of them. Afterwards, the Watchers would be bound underground in the earth until the day of judgment, when they will be cast into hell. The Book of Enoch calls this place the Dudael, or the Accursed Valley. According to this, these cast-out angels are still down there, somewhere underground to this day in a specific location in the earth, waiting in the dark for their execution day. It is then that Uriel is told to tell Noah of the coming flood and instruct him on making his ark. And then what of the human hybrid children produced by the Watchers and their human brides? The Nephilim are generally understood to have been literal giants, though there is some discourse regarding the translation. Some believe that the Nephilim were not larger than average humans, but possessed superhuman intelligence or skill. The purpose of the flood was also to purge these giants from the earth. However, the Nephilim are mentioned later in the Bible, after the flood. So, either some of them survived the great flood, or more angels embarked onto the earth later to repeat the same offenses as the Watchers. This would create even more Nephilim later in the timeline. Goliath and Anak in the Bible are assumed to be Nephilim, as were Achilles and Hercules from Greek mythology. Today, the story has grown in popularity due to the discoveries of the Nag Hammadi Library and the Dead Sea Scrolls, both of which give historical validity to these myths. The perspective on whom or what the Watchers are differs greatly depending on who you listen to, and I'd like to brush through a few of the main theories to give as holistic a presentation of this story as possible. The first perspective would be the literal one. This idea follows the text, well, rather literally. The Watchers were indeed angels in the most undeviating use of the word. These angels were born in the biblical heaven and rebelled against Yahweh, breeding with human women under dubious consent, teaching the forbidden arts of sorcery and war, and were punished accordingly, bringing about the flood from Noah's Ark. The Nephilim were literal giants, no more no less. There's the romantic perspective next. The idea of a story of biblical forbidden love between a higher, eternal being and a lower mortal. The story being that human women are so inherently beautiful and magical in their own right that even the angels of God are powerless to their charms. I'm sure there's a dozen YA novels on this topic, and to be fair, that's kind of the direction this painting is going, but oh well, what can you do? The ancient alien perspective is next, of course. That the Watchers were actually extraterrestrial beings working to advance the human race and even genetically modify us. The fact that the Watchers were referred to not only as heavenly beings, but celestial beings, actually supports this theory quite well. Lastly is the Gnostic perspective, or should I say, perspectives. This one is tricky, because Gnostics seem to take the story in two different directions, so I'm sorry if this is confusing. I'll try to be as clear as I possibly can. The first being that the Watchers were angels or interdimensional beings, subjects of the creator of our reality who essentially saw that we were ignorant of our own consciousness and potential and chose to enlighten us. This perspective gives the Watchers a benevolent demeanor. However, the opposite viewpoint also exists within the Gnostic theory. That being that the Watchers unleashed chaos onto the earth via the arts of weaponry and war, and the bloodline created by the coupling of Watcher and human has led to a malevolent, archontic genealogy that can be traced through the centuries of the world's elite and is to blame for the corruption and systematic suffering within our world. So which theory resonates the most with you? So why was the Book of Enoch excluded from the Bible we know today? I'm not the best person to answer this. But from my findings, the details of the story of the Watchers and the story of Enoch himself may raise too many questions that the church is not prepared to answer should these stories be part of the canon. Truthfully, it makes little sense when you consider that the Nephilim are accepted in the canon, as they are referred to several times throughout the Bible, starting in the book of Genesis in chapter 6. How is it that the Nephilim are canon and the Watchers are not? Recently, a biblical scholar pointed out to me over lunch, actually, that the Book of Enoch is actually quoted in the canonical Bible. It is referenced in the New Testament in the book of Jude in verses 14 and 15. as Jude uses Enoch's words to warn against false teachings in the Jewish faith. We see here that though it is important to note that while the book of Enoch was not included in the New Testament and is not part of the accepted biblical canon in most Christian traditions, it did have a huge influence on early Christian thought and has simply faded from the practice. It is my belief that the book of Enoch being referenced in this way by a canonical text should validate it. However, that's my own opinion based on my own perception that all biblical texts should at least be taken into account, so you should take that as you will. So that is my very novice rundown of the story of the Watchers. I hope that you guys found it entertaining. This painting, as well as fine art prints, are going to be available on my website, so if you're interested, please check that out. It would really help me out, and I'm happy to be back. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!